Happy Monday and back to a chapter a day. Oh my gosh, I am not making any excuses when I don't get a chapter done a day. I had vacation, about 10 days gone. I came back and then I started doing the fall cleans, getting together things. Yesterday was one of those put things up days. So I'm back today and it's Monday and it's the start of a new work week. For those of you who go out, have a blessed week ahead. For those of you who stay in, sort of like me, have a blessed week also. And I pray that God gives you a lot of things for your hands, or find a lot of things for your hands to do. We have started the book of Ruth, and guess what? We're going to be finished in the next couple of days because it's such a short book. But it's a book that teaches you about love, devotion, and God's goodness rewarded for those who do his will. So we already read Ruth chapter 1, in which this man by the name of Elimelech came out of Bethlehem, Judah, because there was famine. This may have been one of the times when the children of Israel were being persecuted by enemies, or God had taken away his blessings from them because, you know, they were doing all kinds of stuff that they shouldn't have been doing, like committing idolatry and other, you know, sodomy or whatever other sins they could have found to do, they were doing. So God may have taken away his hand from them, and this disaster came upon them. So like anyone who could run away from disaster, he took his family, his wife Naomi, and his two sons, Mahlon and Chilion, and they left Bethlehem and went to Moab. He died, which was Elimelech, and his sons married. Not sure if they married before he died or after, but they got married to two Moabitess women, and then they died. And like I said, it's most likely that they are dying in wars, because remember, this is what they do. They fight wars to maintain their territory, okay, or to take over someone else's territory. So now Naomi is left with her two daughters-in-laws, Ruth and Orpah. She beseeches them or tells them, hey, you know what? I am old. I cannot have any more sons. I don't plan to have another son. And even if I do, you all are going to have to wait too long for that. Go back home to your families. Orpah decided, yes, hey, I'm going to go. So amidst all the crying and entreaties, she left. But Ruth said, I'm not going. I'm sticking with you. Wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you die, I want to be buried there beside you. We are going to stick it out. So Naomi said, fine. They went back to Bethlehem, Judah. And when the people saw Naomi, they were shocked, I guess, because she was coming back and looking much different than when she went, because hard times had befallen her, okay? And Ruth, her Moabitess daughter-in-law, is with her. Chapter 2. And Naomi had a kinsman of her husband's, a mighty man of wealth, of the family of Elimelech, and his name was Boaz. And Ruth the Moabitess said unto Naomi, let me now go to the field and glean ears of corn after him, in whose sight I shall find grace. And she said unto her, go, my daughter. And she went and came and gleaned in the field after the reapers, and her hap was to light on a part of the field belonging unto Boaz, who was of the kindred of Elimelech. And behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem, and said unto the reapers, the Lord be with you. And they answered him, the Lord bless thee. Then said Boaz unto his servant that was set over the reapers, whose damsel is this? So, an update as to what's happening. They go back to Bethlehem, Judah. They have to fend for themselves. Remember, Naomi and Ruth are both widows. Like I said, back then, and even today, it's hard for widows to get by, because before the men were providing, now the men are dead, who is going to provide for them? Most likely their lot in Moab was for begging and selling all their possessions before they returned to Bethlehem. Now they are back. Then they have to still fend for themselves. So Ruth, being the younger one, she said, let me go out to the field and glean. Now, gleaning is something they did when after everything was harvested from the field. God had a law that they were not supposed to go back and redo any or pick up any leftovers. Leave that for the widows and the orphans, I believe. They could do that. People who needed, the poor and the widows were supposed to go and pick up after that. And this is exactly what Naomi did. Happened along, it happened to be in a field that belonged to Boaz, who was a relative of Naomi's husband, Elimelech. So Boaz happens, now I will tell you, when God ordains something, it goes exactly as he wants it. Okay? So sometimes we need to let God work and just be thankful that God is in our lives. Boaz happens to see Ruth happens to see Ruth gleaning in his field. So he's asking, who is this lady? Because he's not seen her before. Okay. Verse 6. And the servant that was set over the reapers answered and said, it is the Moabitish damsel that came back with Naomi out of the country of Moab. And she said, I pray you, let me glean and gather after the reapers among the sheaves. So she came and hath continued even from the morning until now, that she tarried a little in the house. Then said Boaz unto Ruth, hearest thou not, my daughter? Go not to glean in another field, neither go from hence, but abide here fast by my maidens. Let thine eyes be on the field that they do reap, and go thou after them. Have I not charged the young men that they shall not touch thee? And when thou art athirst, go unto the vessels, and drink of that which the young men have drawn. Then she fell on her face, and bowed herself to the ground, and said unto him, why have I found grace in thine eyes, that thou shouldest take knowledge of me, seeing I am a stranger? I tell you, when God sets up something, if you want a partner, let God set it up. Trust in God. If God don't do it, don't force it, because you're going to make a mess of it. Trust me, I know. So she is seen by Boaz, and Boaz recognized, she was told about her, she's a Moabite, because you know when things happen in a small town, everybody knows. She's the one who came back with Ruth, she's a Moabitess, etc. And the men said, well, you know, she came to ask us to glean in the field because, you know, she asked us to leave some stuff, and we did, and she came to glean. She's been gleaning whole day. And Boaz went up to her and said, you know what, stay here. Don't go elsewhere to glean. Because I think back in those days when the women who went out to glean in the fields, these men knew, you know, the men who were working, the servants, they knew sometimes these women were on hard times or whatever. And it happens now, I'm hearing places in Africa, this is what they're doing with young girls, enticing them, you know, to sin. And of course, you know, back then, women didn't even have a choice. They could just be taken and abused. So he's telling her, stay close to his maidens and she should be fine. Don't go out there to the men. And he told his men servants, don't harass her. Don't bother her. You know how some men could be. Okay, verse 11. And Boaz answered and said unto her, it has fully been showed me all that thou hast done unto thy mother-in-law since the death of thine husband, and how thou hast left thy father and thy mother and the land of thy nativity, and had come unto a people which thou knewest not heretofore. The Lord recompense thy work, and a full reward be given thee of the Lord thy God of Israel, under whose wings thou art come to trust. Then she said, let me find favor in thy sight, my Lord, for that thou hast comforted me, and for that thou hast spoken friendly unto thine handmaid, though I be not like unto one of thine handmaidens. And Boaz said unto her, at mealtime come thou hither, and eat of the bread, and dip thy morsel in the vinegar. And she sat beside the reapers, and he reached her parched corn, and she did eat, and was sufficed, and left. And when she was risen up to glean, Boaz commanded his young men, saying, let her glean even among the sheaves, and reproach her not. So, see, when God finds favor, when you have God's favor, he will extend it beyond that. People won't even understand why is he or she getting all of these good things happening. It's because you are in God's favor. Remain in God's favor. I mean, where else would you want to be? So, update again. Boaz has told her that he heard of how she came with her mother-in-law. She accepted her mother-in-law as God. She's now with her mother-in-law after their husband's death. And he's blessing her with his words, you know, that God recompenses her for what she has done. And he told her to come in and eat with the handmaidens, you know, had her dipping in the vinegar. I guess they ate bread and vinegar. It must have been more tasty, I guess. Okay. And he also told the young man that let her not just glean from whatever is left back. She can also glean the sheaves. So if she wanted to take even from what was still on the field, what was not left back, but what was still growing in the field, let her do that. Okay, verse 16. And let fall also some of the handfuls of purpose for her, and leave them, that she may glean them, and rebuke her not. So she gleaned in the field until even, and beat out that she had gleaned, and it was about an ephah of barley. And she took it up, and went into the city, and her mother-in-law saw what she had gleaned. And she brought forth and gave to her, that she had reserved after she was sufficed. And her mother-in-law said unto her, Where hast thou gleaned today? And where broughtest thou? Blessed be he that did take knowledge of thee. And she showed her mother-in-law with whom she had wrought, and said, The man's name with whom I wrought today is Boaz. And Naomi said unto her daughter-in-law, Blessed be he of the Lord, who hath not left off his kindness to the living and to the dead. And Naomi said unto her, The man is near of kin unto us, one of our next kinsmen. So after she goes back, she must have gotten quite a lot. So I believe it says barley, but I'm thinking it's sort of like wheat maybe. I'm not sure. But if it's barley, it's barley, which is, I'm not sure what I think it looks kind of like wheat. So he told the man, don't stop her, even on purpose. Let some of the stuff that you already sowed drop, or reaped rather, drop back so she can pick it up, and don't stop her, don't bother her. So when she got home, she maybe had a whole lot more than you would have gotten from just regular gleaning. So the mother-in-law recognized, whoa, you got a lot of stuff today. In whose field were you gleaning? And that's when she told her that it was Boaz. And Naomi knew that Boaz was relative to her dead husband, Elimelech. Wow. Verse 21. And Ruth the Moabitess said, He said unto me also, Thou shalt keep fast by my young men until they have ended all my harvest. And Naomi said unto Ruth, her daughter-in-law, It is good, my daughter-in-law, that thou go out with his maidens, that they meet thee not in any other field. So she kept fast by the maidens of Boaz to glean unto the end of barley harvest and of wheat harvest, and dwelt with her mother-in-law. See how God blesses us? I'm telling you, because I know back then it was hard for widows, and it is still hard for them now, but even back then it was worse because they couldn't really just go out and get a job. So that's what they had to do, kind of pick up after what was left. Okay, so God has blessed her, opened up Boaz's eyes to see her and gain favor with him, and he has helped her out, so when she goes out, she will get a lot more than if she were just gleaning in some stranger's field and they were treating her bad. Because apparently, what is it when people are poor, we feel we can treat them less than a person. That's what we tend to do, but God is watching. Don't do that. You help the poor, you help the fatherless, you help the widow. You don't kick them down. You don't treat them as though they're nobody. People are not nobody because they don't have money as much as you do. That they are there. It's just like how God left the other nations for the Israelites to fight off. That's why God has poor people here on the face of the earth, so we can take care of them. And Lord knows sometimes we were the poor. If you want to tell the truth, sometimes we were in that category, and we know how tough it is. So, lesson to learn. God's favor is God's favor. And when God extends you favor, I pray you know what it is, and I pray you accept it, and make sure you show gratitude. So, that's it for today. And until our next reading, keep listening, because faith comes by the hearing of God's word. So take care. Bye.